Hi, and welcome to Talking Head, the podcast where we talk about queer things, I guess. My name's Laura.
My name is Max, and today we're talking about our queer influences, people and moments that influenced our lives positively.
Icons, if you will, but Max told me specifically not to say that. Hi everyone, this is Laura with a little disclaimer. Listening back to the podcast we recorded, I realized there's a little part where I talk about me figuring out that I like girls, and in that story I use the word normal a lot, mostly in reference to being straight. This usage of language promotes a heteronormative worldview that I actually don't align with, so therefore I'm recording this apology and explanation. Being queer is in every shape, form, or way as valid and normal as being cis or straight is. So I want to apologize for my use of language in that part of the podcast. We've decided to keep the story in as a whole because it's still, I think, a relatable and funny story. And it is also true that at that time in my life, I did not know better than to assume straight was the default. Obviously, I've learned and grown since then, so I could have chosen way better words when recording. That all being said, here's a promise to do better in the future, to keep learning, and I'll see you all next time.
So you thought about this topic. Do you want to kind of talk about why you came up with this?
Yeah, sure. I felt like it would be fun and like lighthearted to just kind of discuss everything that's influenced us positively, and also because in previous episodes we said like, oh, there was so little queer representation back then. There still is not enough queer representation now, so I figured if we just, maybe we can highlight some things that influenced us, and spread the word.
Yeah, cool.
Sweet.
Would you say that for you personally, like media and people you don't know have had a bigger impact on you, or like your personal life and people you met like in real life?
Ooh. I think that for me it's been mostly media, I would say, because I think I was the first person in my circles to come out as queer, and so I didn't have a lot of like direct influence in my surroundings. That only
Other than me.
Other than you, yes, you're my biggest queer icon, but you already know. And so I feel like the people that I have met in real life often have like a deeper or more profound impact in that sense, but there's a lot less instances where I've had those conversations, or where I've met those people, or where I've had those like impactful moments versus the people that I saw in media and on TV were just in larger numbers, I suppose.
Yeah.
Would you say it's the same for you, or?
No, I feel like that's always something I've like felt was a difference between us, because the way you talk about, I don't know how to like even put it in words, but I just always feel like you got a lot more from media than people around you, and I feel like for me it's, well, not really, but I kind of still feel like it was the other way around, but I don't really know why. I feel like I just was lucky enough to be surrounded by people who were pretty open about being queer from quite a young age. So yeah, I think for me it was mostly like actual people in my life, rather than media. But like the point you make about like having an impact, I would say maybe media was a bigger impact in terms of like gender realizations, because I was also like the only trans person that I knew in my life. So yeah, in terms of trans people, media was definitely like an eye opener. So
that makes sense. I feel like
Mm.
I'm also a Pisces. I tend to get really invested in whatever I watch or consume. So maybe that's also why it just like impacted me more. I don't know. But I think it's also definitely has to do with like surroundings. I think the first time that I ever met an adult who understood anything about um, being queer, I think I was 19. It was like my first year of college. And that was the
Wow.
first time that there was an adult in my life that understood queer things. And I was just
Yeah.
like, I remember just being flabbergasted at the idea that there were even adults that understood this. Like, up until that moment for me, it really had only been a thing that only my friends understood, and people on Tumblr and like people our age, and
Yeah.
felt like it was very much like almost a generational
Mhm.
thing or
Mhm.
something. And then I
Yeah.
finally met an adult who like got it, and immediately within the first 5 minutes of meeting each other asked me for my pronouns, and I just remember being shocked, being like,
Mhm.
oh my god,
Yeah.
oh my god. So that was one of the few like I'd say like impactful moments, and people that definitely influenced my life positively. um, but that really only happened like way later
Yeah. Yeah.
in
Quite
my
late.
life. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, I don't really remember where I first heard about trans people, and I do remember that I always thought of trans people as trans women. I didn't really
Yeah.
realize there were trans men, so I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what the first thing was that made me realize there was also a possibility for me as an assigned female at birth person to be a trans man, or back
Mm-hmm.
then I thought I was a trans man. um, but what I do remember is looking up videos on YouTube, um, from trans guys talking about their transition and being trans and all that stuff. So I think I may have just stumbled upon that, or maybe on Tumblr. I don't know, but yeah, it was also probably like peers, people of my age or maybe a little bit older, um, and yeah, I know I remember like watching any video I could find. And that was like 2012, 2013. So it really wasn't
Mm-hmm.
that common now. If you go on YouTube and you type in like FTM timeline, you get like 12 million videos. But back then, there were like maybe 10. So, yeah.
Do you remember any names of any creators that like stood out to you, or were like some of the first people that influenced you and your
Yeah.
journey?
Back then, I don't remember the name, but there was this like, well, back in the day, you had collab channels where multiple people had
Right.
like one channel, and there was one I don't remember the name, but there were like five, I want to say, trans guys on there,
Mm-hmm.
and they were at the time maybe 24 to 26, I think. So they were quite a bit older than me. Um, but they made like multiple videos a week, and that was something I really like loved watching because it was very informative for me. Um, and I don't really remember their names.
It's okay. It's been
um,
years.
yeah, but I don't know. There's a few creators that still make videos. And the ones I still watch are Chase Ross is a big one. He's Canadian. Who else? There's a Skylar. I don't remember his last name, but he's quite famous. I don't know if famous. I don't know if he still makes videos. There's Alex Bertie from the UK. Yeah, there's honestly there's quite a lot, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
really watch those videos anymore, so I don't really keep up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Would you say that the people that have like impacted you the most or influenced you the most, that it's mostly trans men, or people that like are were very much in a um, in the same situation as you were?
Um, yeah, I guess. I think because like I didn't have anyone in my immediate surroundings that was trans. Once I realized or thought back then that I was a trans guy, it was logical for me to look to those people, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. Um, and I actively like looked them up. It's not like they just like passed by and I was like, oh,
Yeah, you went out looking for something to relate
yeah.
to.
So I wouldn't really go watch trans women's videos or non-binary people's videos. Um, Also because non-binary and queer identities back then were even less common to find information about and people's stories. So yeah,
Yeah.
probably mostly transmasculine
Mm-hmm.
videos.
That's interesting to me because I already like said this to you just before we started recording. But when I like try to compile my list of people that have influenced me one way or another, and mostly people in media, um, like the list is very much just people assigned male at birth,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure if that is because I somehow relate to them more inside my mind, or if it's because there's just I feel like there's less representation for
Yep.
non-binary people that were are assigned female at birth.
Mhm.
I'm not sure where it comes from, but it just really struck me because I like typed out my list and I was like, okay, Tyler Ford, Jacob Tabaya, Mitch Grassi, a couple of drag queens, Courtney Act, Kashita Wurst, and I was just like, where are okay.
uh, uh.
I see a pattern.
Yeah, but I do actually think there are just more assigned male at birth non-binary people, like celebrities, if you if you want. Um, I don't know why, but the only non-binary person that is assigned female at birth that I can think of at the top of my head is Theo Germain, who plays what's his name in The Politician.
Oh yeah, yeah. I still haven't
I
seen
don't
that.
remember his characters, but yeah, um, yeah, that's the only one.
Yeah, I think it might also have to do with the fact that um, if you are a non-binary person who's been assigned female at birth, you can sort of fly under the radar for longer. Because if you
Yeah,
dress a bit more butch or you wear
unfortunately,
pants,
yeah,
no one's gonna like blink or bat an eye.
yeah,
But being non-binary as an assigned male person at birth is a lot more subversive because men don't wear skirts and
yeah,
men don't wear makeup, even though these people are obviously not men. But um, it's very much more something that people will bat an eye at and are like,
yeah.
wait, what are you doing stepping outside of your little gendered box?
What I also think is interesting is that, well, I also thought of Chalaman.
Mm-hmm.
He is, well, I'm not sure about his pronouns, their pronouns. But Chalaman is like genderqueer,
Mm-hmm.
but in Titans, I think, their character is, I think, a trans guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or at least like a male character. Um, but what I realize is that both Chelaman and Theo Germain identify as a non-binary something, like a label, either non-binary or genderqueer.
Mm-hmm.
But they have both um, undergone like a medical transition,
Oh yeah.
and I don't feel like non-binary people who are assigned male at birth necessarily do that. I think a lot of them just, live their life and maybe dress a certain way to express their gender identity, but they maybe don't start medical transitions as much.
Well, what this made me think is that that's maybe why I related to these people more or most, like the people that are on my little influence list, because um, I, for the longest time, had no interest in um, transitioning and seeing people out there live their lives fully and authentically without any like focus on transition maybe
Yeah.
made more sense to me, because I was just like, oh yeah, this is very much something I can relate to. I want to be
Hmm.
myself, and I want to be able to, dress the way I want to, act the way I want to, but I have no interest in um, the transition.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So, do you remember who the first person was in media to influence you?
The first, I'm not sure. I think the first time I was like actively aware maybe was, and you'll probably recognize this, was Mitch Grassi.
Mm.
I think,
Yeah. Yeah.
who I'm not sure if Mitch even identifies as non-binary. I think,
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, I've not kept
I
in.
think he just identifies as like Mitch.
Yeah,
You
like,
know?
right. I'm pretty sure like back then when we were still like um super into superfruit and pentatonics and everything, at least he was still just like a queer man back then. But I just remember like seeing him live his life so freely and openly
Mm.
and authentically, and play with his expression and his clothes and fashion and his hair and hair colors and shaving it all off. And I was just like, the freedom I like felt and sensed in that was
Mm.
was the first time where I realized like, oh, this is someone I look up to, and someone I would like want to like model myself after in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I just remembered, like, literally the other day, I think this week probably, I watched an interview with Mitch,
Mm-hmm.
and a musician or producer,
Yeah.
um, about his queer identity and
Mm-hmm.
being a queer musician. And um, they also discussed that, like, change in his identity,
Mm-hmm.
where Mitch said that, well, when he was quite young and at the beginning of his career, he just identified as a gay man,
Mm-hmm.
and now he identifies as queer in every way, which is very much similar to us, like
Yeah.
how we identify. And he also made the point of like experimenting with fashion was the first step in, um, yeah, like just experimenting with his identity in a sense. And I thought that was really interesting and relatable as well. So it definitely made sense because he was on my list as well of
I
people
know
that
he
influenced my
was.
life. Yeah, yeah, I think that might have been the first celebrity to kind of, yeah, influence me as well. I don't really know if there was anyone before
Right.
that.
I tried to think of that as well, and it was just like so hard to come up with anyone. And I feel part of that has to do, I think, with the fact that you know um, you only start to think about all these things from a certain age on. So um, only from that age on are you aware that like, oh hey, this is something I look up to and something I want and something I aspire. But then I also think that before that age, everything you consume is very much like children's TV, and there was definitely no
Yeah,
queer
yeah.
representation from what I can remember
Yeah,
in children's TV.
yeah, me neither.
Same.
I don't think there's anything I can think. Oh, there was one show with, but that was like for teenagers more so than kids.
Tweens.
Tweens, yeah. Um, and it was about like college students who lived together in a house, um, and one of the characters was a gay man. That was the top of my my
Diversity clap.
representation list. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So that's yeah the only thing I can think of.
For some reason, Avatar really comes to my mind. Even though they have, from what I remember, they have no like
Genitals.
outwardly well also, but they have no like outwardly queer characters. Yet
Mm.
somehow that show felt very quintessentially like safe
Oh
to
wait,
me.
which
And
Avatar do you mean?
oh,
Because I think I'm
Avatar,
thinking
the oh god.
the Last Airbender.
Yes.
Okay. Because I was thinking of the other Avatar, and I was like, okay, interesting.
Sweet.
I
I was
might have
like,
been thinking about the film and not the
with the
series.
blue ones.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I was like, that's an
No,
interesting
I
gay
meant
awakening.
I would not call that a children's show either.
Oh yeah, I guess yeah.
No, I meant Avatar: The Last Airbender, the children's cartoon.
Anime. Is that an
Wild.
anime technically? Probably. Is that an anime technically?
I think so. I'm not
Right?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either way, I feel like, oh, I think I know why. Because even though it had no queer characters, it did tackle like gender norms. Because it had Suki and the warriors, and they were like this all-female warrior group. And at first, Sokka's like, "Oh, girls can't fight," blah blah blah. And then, of course, they totally prove him wrong, and he learns. And so there were a lot of like strong female characters in there, and a lot of like, yeah, like challenging gender stereotypes and gender norms. So I think that even though it didn't have any queer characters or any really like very little romantic plots at all, it still feels important, and it still feels like
Yeah.
it has influenced me as one of the first things that showed me like, hey, everything you've been thought about gender is not necessarily the way it is.
Yeah, and I feel like it might have also been in a more like subconscious way, if that makes sense, where you weren't really aware of it as a kid watching that, like what you were learning, if that makes sense.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think that's why we maybe don't remember shows like that. Maybe there were shows that had representation, but we just don't really remember because it was more on a subconscious level, if that makes sense. But I do definitely think that these days there's obviously more representation.
For sure, which is good. Do you have any other shows or people or anything that you're like, that was major, that was when I realized or had this big revelation or whatever?
I can't think of anything that was like impactful when I was younger or at the start of my I don't know how to call it, but
Your journey.
my journey. But I think in recent years, I've also kind of found it interesting that literally like the year after I came out, suddenly trans characters popped up everywhere, and it was so weird because I was like, am I just like imagining things and just noticing this now, or is it just actually suddenly become a thing in media?
Oh yeah, is there an actual increase, or
Yeah.
am I just noticing it now?
Aware of it, yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah, but that was after I came out and started my transition, so that didn't really have that much of an impact on me. But it did kind of influence me in the sense that I felt comfortable when I was in college for journalism to make things about trans people, because I felt like I wasn't a complete weirdo for talking about these topics. So I guess in that sense it did influence me, but it's not like on a personal level, it had that much of an impact. So do you have any like um I don't know how to like put it, but okay, I'll just kind of talk about my own experiences, and then you can like jump in if you have any,
Sweet.
because I just kind of want to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was like 11, I think I realized I was bi
Mm-hmm.
for the first time, and I don't remember specific people, but I do remember having like crushes or um, interest in girls,
Mm-hmm.
um, as well as boys. Um, and what I specifically only now, I guess looking back, realize is that I kind of just could talk to my best friends at the time about it, and they didn't really think it was weird, or they didn't like shame me or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, I think my environment and the kids I was friends with were kind of open about it, and especially in like early high school years when I was like 13. My best friends all identified as bisexual, and they still do because it's not a phase. But yeah, they were. Some of them were really like open and loud, and
Mm-hmm.
um, out there. So I think it just created this environment of like one person being like, I'm bisexual, don't fuck with me. Basically created this safe space for every bisexual person on earth, uh,
Mm-hmm.
in our school at least, to just be like, yeah. And it wasn't really a big deal. Nobody got bullied that I remember anyway. I hope not. Um, so yeah, I think I was just very lucky, but I wonder if like you kind of relate to that or not.
Well, see.
There was kissing girls at parties.
For sure. Here's the thing with our friend group. Um, you have the like clueless lesbian stereotype. Take six clueless bi people,
Wow.
put them together, and then they'll all just be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, we like kissing girls, but don't all girls like to kiss girls? Because here's six girls who like to kiss girls, so I think that's just a normal part of the straight experience." And
Yeah.
we kept that up for like 5 solid years, I think, before we one by one slowly started to figure out like, wait,
Not all
wait.
girls do this.
Exactly. So it was very weird because for the longest time we all just didn't question our straightness
Yeah.
while we were full on,
Mhm.
kissing girls. So that was really weird. And what I also remember is um in the first grade I had a crush on one of my friends, and it's like this totally classic teen movie story where she used to have braces and glasses, and then one day, yeah, I kid you not, I kid you not, she had her braces taken off and she put contacts in for the first time that day,
Wow.
as well. And I just remember her walking in to the class and just me being like, wow,
I'm gay.
she's gorgeous. No, no, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I went, wow, she's gorgeous. And then my brain immediately went, wow, isn't it beautiful how much of a deep and intense love you can feel for your friends? Like that's
Oh my god. Wow.
funny.
When you're clueless.
I was clueless.
Wow. I mean, it is funny because I think probably every bisexual girl or assigned female at birth person I know and have talked to about being bi has told me that exact like thing of kissing girls and thinking that's just what girls
I
do.
think I think it comes with this like um this belief and idea in society that girls are way more touchy feely and way more
Yeah.
used to being intimate with each other. And so definitely when there's, when you only have five friends and all of them like to kiss girls, then there's no way of really finding out
Yeah.
if that is normal or not. And also because in media you do see like, drunk assumed straight girls like making out for like attention or whatever, and so you
Mm.
just kind of as a teen assume like, oh yeah, that's normal, that's no big deal, and then one day you realize it's not. um
Yeah.
I had the same thing with my gender identity in a way. For the
Okay.
longest time, I was like, I kind of figured out like, okay, I'm probably like queer or whatever. Um, but what I like didn't realize for the longest time is that not all assigned female at birth people look up to male icons and go like, I want to be like you, I want to look like you. And I thought like, oh, that's just a normal part of idolization, so it's very normal for me to feel that. And then I talked to one of my friends and they were just like, no, I never feel that way about a man. I never look at
Yeah.
a man and think like, I want to look like you. And I was like, ah, oh.
Oh, interesting. Oh, me neither.
Ha ha ha, I would never.
No, but that is interesting because that's something I also definitely felt, like the thing of, oh, I look up to these, band members or whatever, male celebrities in a sense, and I was like, wow, they are cool, and I kind of want to be like them, but surely that's just because I think they're cool.
I relate to this so hard.
Yeah.
Literally. But I think it's good that we're having these conversations now and that, like, people can maybe hopefully relate to it and be like, oh, wait, actually, I feel the same way. Or, oh, actually, I never realized that these things I'm thinking or feeling might, might allude to something or might come from
Yeah.
somewhere deep inside me instead of just being like a normal thing. Well,
Yeah, and I think it's also like common for people to kind of realize things once they're already out as something and they've gotten to know themselves, that when they look back they're like, oh, that was like such a big pointer.
I was so gay. I was so gay, and for the longest time, I thought I was straight. And not only like the kissing girls part, but just like I remember being literally in elementary school, being like maybe 6 or 7, and already like looking at girls and being like, wow, she's the most beautiful creature on earth. And I just remember like looking at cartoons and always liking liking the girls the most. Like I think I had crushes on like Kim Possible and like Katara from The Last Airbender and stuff. And only in retrospect,
Yeah.
once I realized that being queer and liking women was a possibility for me, only in retrospect I could start piecing together the pieces and being like, oh wait, that was not an intense love for your best friend. That was a
Yeah.
crush.
That was the question. Yeah. Do you feel like you know, because there's people who influenced you when you were younger or at the start of like starting to realize that maybe you weren't straight and cis, um, but do you feel like there's people since then that you've come across and that have influenced you even after like realizing more things about yourself?
Mm, I think so for sure. I think I'm still being influenced. It's not so much singular people anymore, I feel, but it's more um, attitudes towards me and towards queer things. And for instance, the Canadian show Schitt's Creek
Mm-hmm.
is this like beautiful like character-driven comedy that has a pansexual person in it, and it's never they never make it an issue. And in
Mm-hmm.
media, we always see being queer as this issue, and there's struggle and strife, and um, there is no strife, there is no struggle
Yeah.
in sexuality in that show, and things like that still really influence me and
Mm-hmm.
really give me more strength and make me feel like, okay, we're good. You know,
Yeah.
life could just be good for
Yeah.
queer people. I could be fine.
Mm.
The same thing with my current workplace, who have now all had a link to this podcast by now. So if any of them are hearing this, hi, shout out to you, I suppose.
Welcome.
Welcome. This is slightly uncomfortable. But this is the first time in like, or the first place in Dutch in like the Netherlands where I've worked in a professional environment where people are so open and so accepting and get it and understand it, and it's really influenced me in the sense that it's given me a lot more power, and it's made me feel a lot stronger about my identity and about boundaries and about really asking for my pronouns, really daring to correct people on their mistakes. I wouldn't ever do that before. I was too scared. I was like, oh, it's just gonna be this thing, and it's gonna be awkward, and I don't want it, and whatever. So yeah, I feel like I'm still constantly being influenced and like learning how to be a stronger person, I suppose.
Yeah.
What about you?
For me as well, I think just kind of in getting to know more people in the queer community and seeing how different people live authentically, and what different people look like in a sense as well, that just inspires me to explore my identity still, even if I'm like already way into my transition and stuff like that, and realizing, or I guess coming to terms with my identity. I feel like there's always room for improvement in a way. And for example, like maybe 2 years ago, I think we both started watching on YouTube with Katja and Trix and Tel. And just like kind of in seeing drag queens that much and becoming like normalized and accustomed to seeing men in wigs and dresses, it just kind of like made all these ideas of gender expression so normal in my head that I now feel more comfortable just doing whatever with fashion and stuff like that. So that's like a big influence, I would say, still nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. That makes total sense. I have one more honorable mention, or
Okay.
like funny clueless story. Pretty much, I think it's just something I remembered because way back, there's been a period in my life where I was super into Drag Race, and it's for the same reasons, like just it's a fun entertainment, but also just seeing mostly men in wigs. It's just like such an easy and safe way to like explore gender, not as this like heavy subject, but as this like fun playground where you get to play around and be different people, be different
Absolutely.
characters, whatever. And so in season 6 you have Courtney Act, and Courtney Act is, I don't have to tell you because but she's like super super feminine, and so in drag she could just like pass as a woman, no doubt. And I just remember watching the show, and in particular I was watching her, and she was doing whatever, but was doing it with like full blown like confidence, and she was just beautiful and confident and alluring and whatever. And I just remember looking at that and thinking, wow, I wish I was a woman. And just like a second later realizing like Courtney is literally assigned male at birth.
Yeah.
I am assigned female at birth. Theoretically, I could be closer,
You're closer
to
a
being
woman. Yeah.
a woman than Courtney is. But like, no.
That is
It's
really
just
funny.
such a funny thought to me. I just like looked down and I was like, wait.
Right. But that's like the interesting thing about the difference between gender and sex. Like you can literally be viewed by society as a woman and be more masculine
Mm-hmm.
than a person who is viewed as a man by society. Like
Right? So
it's so fun.
interesting. Yeah, and I think for me as well, it really showed me like apparently like womanhood to me is this like is this confidence and this um allure and looking like, you know, beautiful and whatever, and you know, having all this makeup and beautiful clothes and whatnot,
Mm.
whereas I'm more of like a throw on a hoodie kind of person. And so
Yeah.
it was really interesting to me to see that, you know, you can blur these lines and you can play with them, and someone by changing their expression can end up being way more of one thing, and in this case a woman, than you will ever see yourself. And this for me
Yeah.
also really, this subconscious thought that just popped up really also confirmed for me like, oh, I am queer, because I don't think any cis woman would ever
Yeah.
think, oh, I wish I was a woman when they look
Yeah.
at a drag queen.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it is interesting what you say because I remember, I don't know when this was, but at some point you said femininity is a performance to me. And I thought that was really interesting, and that really, like, that what you just told me makes perfect sense in that way.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's funny that, you know, you remember something I said and I
Yeah.
didn't, but I
I
still
thought it was so, like, poignant. Yeah.
yeah, and I still feel that way too. Like sometimes I will have days where I'm like, oh, I want to look more feminine or whatever, but it's never natural to me. It always
Mm-hmm.
feels like a performance. It feels like I'm
Yeah.
dressing up and I'm putting up this like version of myself. And it's not fake, and it's not because I don't want to. Like on those days, I definitely want to, but it's definitely, it doesn't feel innate to me.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
Sweet.
Well, I think that was a very fun podcast we just did.
Yes. What a light. Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm so sorry.
What a light.
A lighthearted, fun episode.
Well, thanks for the nice chat.
Thank you for the nice chat.
Well,
All right.
all right. See you next time, people.
Yes, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, feedback, leave a Yelp review, any anything you want.